Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, yes, yes. Am I audible?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Good.
Okay. Good morning, sir. On behalf of Department of English, Sardar Patel University, uh, today we have Dr. Bhaskar Pandya, sir, with us. Let me introduce sir first. His qualifications are MA, MPhil, PhD, GSET in English. Sir has more than 22 years of teaching and administration experience. He is associated with six leading universities of India or their affiliated institutes. The universities include the MS University of Baroda, Gujarat University Ahmedabad, Gujarat Technology University Gandhinagar, Sardar Patel University, Vallabh Vidyanagar, and Punjab Technical University. At present, he is working with Charotar University of Science and Technology, Charusat, Changa, Gujarat for around 20 years. Sir has held the position of Dean in charge of Faculty of Management Studies, Charusat, Changa, Gujarat, as well as principal, in charge principal of Indukaka Ipkowala Institute of Management, Charusat, Changa, Gujarat. Sir has initiated holistic development model for students with the development leading on personal, social, and professional fronts. Sir has initiated foreign language French as an elective course for postgraduate students across the university. Sir also institutionalized and coordinated for the 9 years courses on liberal arts like painting, photography, media and graphic design, dramatics, contemporary dance, art and craft, etc., offered to all the undergraduate students of the university, in which around 12,500 students have undergone the courses. He has also contributed in the execution for the last 6 years of the course on creativity, problem solving, and innovation to all the students of undergraduate program of the university. Around in which also around 10,000 students have undergone the courses. He is currently working as a Dean Faculty of Humanities, Charusat Changa. Sir has published 19 papers, 10 books, also delivered talks, and also presented 63 papers. He has guided two research scholars, and six are ongoing. Sir is going to engage the session on reading comprehension today. So, sir, I welcome you on behalf of the department. Now I hand over this session to you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I think you are Pratham.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as the name suggests, you started first.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'll just like to share my screen. You can just help me. Okay. Is
Yes, sir.
my
It's
screen
visible.
visible?
Yes. It's visible.
Okay. Uh, you want me to keep my camera on or off? Okay, fine. That's okay.
Uh, yes,
In
sir.
case if it creates problems, just tell me because it may be a network issue for others. I can see
Sure.
you, madam. I can see Shane. Very good morning to all. Uh, if you just okay. Good morning, madam. Very good morning. Okay, good. You can go on posting. Uh, Let me first of all congratulate the Department of English for this unique initiative of starting the free online NET coaching because we know that all the departments and the institutes they have felt the need for this coaching, but a few initiate, and among those who initiate, hardly a few continue this long. So every day 4 hours, and that too for 15 days is a mammoth task, very comprehensive program, and I believe it will help the participants a lot. And as I am told, there are a few here, and this is being YouTube live. So they'll be attending there also, and later on, everybody can access it on YouTube. So keeping in view, it is being YouTube live, and keeping in view the participants here, I'll just try to emphasize that I would like this session to be an interactive one, because this is all about reading comprehension, which we'll be learning through speaking. So normally we should be dealing with the reading. So I'll try to have a balance between the reading and the interaction. Okay. As I'm introduced, I'm with Charodar University of Science and Technology, Charuset Changa. It's a university aiming excellence, NAC A plus grade, also the Center of Excellence with ranking in NIRF and GSIRF. Pratham, can you see the flow of my presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Because I'm changing right from here, so just wanted to confirm. What I have planned to include in this interaction is about the UGC NET, just briefing, the components covered in paper 1 with an emphasis on reading comprehension. Would like to share the story of Eklavya, because there I find similarities between what we have to prepare for and what we learn from that story. Then relating it with the Bloom's cognitive levels, would like all the participants to focus on Bloom's taxonomy. Then we'll talk about the reading, its concept and meaning. We'll have sample paragraphs from the NET previous year question papers. We'll have 2 paragraphs, one right from after the reading. Then we'll talk about reading types, techniques, and levels. Then reading forms. I have added these forms for fun element, because there are many things in reading which we believe that should be there, but we normally don't emphasize on. So just to emphasize on different forms of reading, I have added them. And then finally, we'll talk about the comprehension, the concept, meaning, and types of comprehension. Once we know both reading and comprehension, we'll have one more paragraph for sample and then discuss. And then finally, I'll give you 6 elements on reading and comprehension, the higher cognitive skills, and we'll share it with a small story. And then the last component will be your sharing. If you have anything, what have you learned from this session, you can just share with me. Now, if I talk about the UGC NET, I know, I think Swati Madam has already cleared it, and there are a few others who aspire to appear. It's conducted by NTA, National Testing Agency, and NTA is entrusted by the UGC. UGC NET is a test to determine, now this is important, the eligibility of Indian nationals for assistant professor as well as JRF and assistant professor. And the recent development, as we see now, it is an important element for admissions to PhD program as well. Okay, and NTA, though it is entrusted by UGC, it is an establishment of Ministry of HRD, now known as Ministry of Education. What is important is it is an independent, autonomous, and self-sustained organization established under Society Registration Act 1860. It conducts, now this is where I would like you to focus on, it conducts efficient, transparent, and international standard tests. Now, why do we have to prepare for the NET? Why do we have to focus on the elements like comprehensions or reading? Because they are into the efficient testing, and their objective is to assess the competency of candidates. Now, when I say the competency, I would just like to focus on the word competency. Because what do we understand by competency? So, competency is normally, let's say, the characteristics we possess, or on an informal note, you can say competencies are the skills we have. Though there is a difference between the skills and the competencies, because the skills can be acquired, learned, sharpened, whereas competencies are mostly inherent, like the leadership skills we have, like the collaboration skills we have. So ultimately, we look at net not as an examination of our knowledge, but as an examination of mapping our competencies. So all those who are aspiring for this exam, I would just like you to remember that this is not an exam with the pass-fail criteria. Though we pass, we fail. But here it's more on competency mapping. Now, what are the components that are covered here in the paper one? As I'll be dealing with the comprehension, okay, I would just like to focus on the components that are covered in paper one. As you know, and maybe most of them are covered in these days. The first one is teaching aptitude, then there is research aptitude, there is reading comprehension, but they call it comprehension only. There is communication. I think yesterday there was a session on communication. Reasoning. It includes mathematical reasoning and aptitude both. Logical reasoning, data analysis and interpretation. They call it data interpretation. ICT, information and communication technology, people, development and environment, and the higher education system. Now, maybe you are just surprised, why am I repeating this? Just because if you read the UGC syllabus that is given on the individual topics, what do they cover in teaching aptitude, research aptitude, you will just try and understand that comprehension has been listed with nothing. There are no sub components in comprehension because it relates to everything. If you see the past year question papers, it relates to communication, it relates to ICT, it relates to environment, it relates to higher education, teaching and research aptitude as well. And the questions that are asked after the paragraphs, they relate to not just communication, but the reasoning. I will just emphasize also the mathematical reasoning and aptitude, and also on the logical reasoning. So when you look at comprehension, particularly the reading comprehension, okay, I would just like to say you need to focus on all the elements. Just simple on comprehension, as we have been studying the comprehension, will not help, particularly for three reasons. Comprehension here is not simple comprehension. It has to do with the knowledge. I would just say the background knowledge you have of the world around you. It has to do with your skills. I said the mathematical, communication, reasoning, and everything. And the third, it has to do with your persona, your attitude, and your aptitude towards the interpretations of the text that is before you. So, keeping all these things in mind, I have just prepared this. What you would like to understand, or what I would like to emphasize, is you need to know reading comprehension in these four layer terminologies: data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. Normally, we know these words. We have been using them as well, but we hardly use them in the hierarchy it has to be used. So for the purpose, I would just like to explain them. Now, what is data? Data is actually the raw information you have on anything. It doesn't convey anything. it gives you some bits and pieces of information. Now, what is information? When you classify the data, it becomes the information. So, say for example, we have a class of 60 and we have the results of all the 60 students, their grades. That is the data. When you classify how many are there in the past class, how many are there in the first class, how many are there in the second class, then it becomes the information. Now, when you compare it with the previous year results, the other students of other divisions, okay, you come to know we have more students in grade A, we have more students in first class, we have more students with higher CGPAs. So then it becomes the knowledge. So knowledge is always in terms of the comparisons and the contrasts. And what is important is the wisdom, because we all have the knowledge, but hardly a few have the wisdom. Because when you apply the knowledge, that becomes the wisdom. And NET, and particularly the paper one, is all about the knowledge and the wisdom. And somewhere, while preparing for NET paper one, particularly the reading and the comprehension, we get confused in data and the information. Whereas going beyond the data and the information, we have to go to the level of knowledge and wisdom. So with this, I would just say all these 10 components, okay, there are 5 questions each. So 10 marks for reading and comprehension. Okay, in order to teach this knowledge and wisdom, I would just like to ask if anybody from the participants would like to share anything that you have on the story of Eklavya that we have. Anybody, if you can unmute and share. Pratham, can they unmute and share? Or
Yes, sir, they can.
okay, fine. We have multiple stories of Eklavya. Somewhere we have the Eklavya as the heroic figure. Somewhere we have Eklavya as the villainous character. Some stories magnify the character of Dronacharya. Some stories criticize him. Some stories emphasize that just because of his love for Arjuna, he asked for the Guru Dakshina from Eklavya. Now here, if we go by these first two elements, the data and the information, and we simply apply the logic and the reasoning, and we don't apply our attitude and aptitude, our knowledge and the wisdom, we just, yes, we develop a hatred for Dronacharya. The reason being, he asked for the right hand thumb of the Eklavya. Though he denied coaching him, though he was not directly his student, yes, there are so many things that we find. But if you look at what happened behind, now this is all about reading between the texts, reading between the lines, okay, knowing the intentions and the objectives of the authors, going behind the words in a text. So what actually happened, I'll just narrate it in brief. One day, what happens is Dronacharya was helping the students practice their art. You can say the skill of archery. All the Kauravas and the Pandavas were there. They were practicing it. And all of a sudden, what happens is a dog, a bleeding dog, comes there crying. And when Dronacharya observes, he finds that it has been shot arrows in its mouth, and because of that, it's bleeding and crying. That's what everybody observes, that's what everybody sees, that's what everybody understands. But Dronacharya goes beyond the information, beyond the knowledge. So he asks all the students, come with me. And they follow the dog backtrack. They goes to the place where it has come from. And there they see Eklavya practicing his art, his skill. And they meet, and the story we know that he tells, I am your student, I approached you earlier, but you denied and all. And here, what happens is Dronacharya tries to understand why Eklavya did this. And to everybody's surprise, they came to know that Eklavya was practicing his art, and from some direction, they hear this barking of the dog. An annoyed Eklavya shoots 7 arrows in a sequence without looking into the direction of the noise. 7 arrows in a sequence without looking into the direction in such a way that all are shot in the mouth of the dog, and taking care that it doesn't die, at the same time it can't bark. And this is where Eklavya understands that, but Dronacharya is wiser. So he understood the things because he had the skill, he had the knowledge, but he was lacking wisdom, the application of his knowledge, the social responsibility of an artist, of a skilled person. Let's say here for us, a skilled teacher. And that's the reason why this reading comprehension focuses more on knowledge and wisdom. And just looking at the future scenario, he asked for that Guru Dakshina. Otherwise, he never taught him, he would not have asked. So what I would like you to focus here is this NET particularly is conducted for the profession of teaching. And the UGC wants us to be the socially responsible persons. And that's the reason why this aptitude, why this attitude, why this reasoning, and why the social responsibility matters the most. So I would like all of you to focus on everything that we have to discuss with this attitude of social responsibility. Okay, now as you enter the examination, what we have is the learning levels. Okay, you appear in the exam, you read a paragraph or a passage that is given, you try to understand what it is, you go through the questions, and we know there are multiple choice questions, so we have 4 options given there. And now if you analyze those questions, you will find that all the questions are based on these Bloom's cognitive levels. If I just like to, he was an American educational psychologist, Bloom, and this taxonomy has been named after him because he led the team of the researchers which developed this. So it's known as Bloom's taxonomy, but we will not enter into that information part of it. I would just like to focus on the lower order thinking skills and the higher order thinking skills that he has emphasized. So the levels of his taxonomy, if you look at right from the bottom, there is knowledge, comprehension, again, what we are here to discuss, the understanding part of it, the application, okay, whatever you have understood, how you apply, the analysis. So post application, how you analyze it based on your experience. You synthesize different experiences, your background knowledge, the information that you already have based on the experiences of others. Okay, so synthesis is there, then you evaluate, and again you develop new knowledge. So you start back. Later on, what happened is the same was revised, and the recent is remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So ultimately, the focus of any learning experience, teaching learning in the classroom, and also the evaluation in the NET examination, and particularly the reading comprehension part for now, for us. Okay, it will focus more on the application, analysis, evaluation, and the creation of the knowledge that you have based on your reading, remembering, and understanding of the paragraph. So they are the basic skills. We call them the psychomotor skills. The skills that we have to do our day-to-day or routine activities. Let me say, for example, the activities that we carry out or the activities that are the movement oriented. You drive. Okay, so you don't consciously think on what I am doing. Ultimately, you reach back home or you reach the place you are driving at. So psychomotor, they are basic skills. Now, 50% of the NET participants, they are stuck there in the psychomotor. So I would want you to go beyond. Then there is affective domain. Affective domain is more the personal attributes, your moods, your attitude, your feelings, and all. So when you actually apply the text that is given to you, when you analyze it with the background knowledge you have, with the experiences you have passed through, with the world you have seen, okay, maybe some of you will have some teaching experience. So whatever the classroom practices you have gone through, and the research you have carried out, in the light of everything, when you enter this affective domain, you analyze and you apply. But what you have to control here, your moods, your feelings, your attitude. So we here need or emphasize or focus more on the positive attitude when you read the paragraph. Now, sometimes we believe, okay, I am positive in my attitude. No, positive attitude is having the positive attitude for what the author has written in the paragraph. We'll just have a paragraph for our sample, and I'll just tell you how to look at that with the positive attitude. Okay, and finally, there is cognitive level, the higher order thinking skills like creating, evaluating, and all. Now, reading takes place in this cognitive level. Reading is not a psychomotor activity. Reading again is not there. Your interpretations, your analysis is there in the affective domain. But when you read and you are in the affective domain, badly affected by your moods and feelings and attitude, then you will have to cut a sorry figure. See, 5 questions, 10 marks. And they are clear-cut marks for you because the paragraph is given. It's all just a question of how you evaluate and how you create the new knowledge. Yes, so with this background, I would just like you to understand what reading is. But remember, friends, my focus here is not on reading, my focus here is on comprehension. But unless you understand what reading is, it will be difficult for you to understand the comprehension. Because the first activity or the first part of comprehension for us is reading the given paragraph. Just if you go by the simple concept and meaning of reading, it is defined as a cognitive process. So again, I would like you to go back to what I said, cognitive process. So it's a process of evaluating what is given to you in the form of a paragraph, the evaluation of the ideas, thoughts, and experiences shared by the author therein, okay, even the data, and creating the new knowledge. Yes. So with this, you just involve, okay, decode and arrive at or create a meaning. So we can say it's an active process of constructing meanings of words. Now this is simple, but when you look at the meanings and constructing meanings of words, what you have to focus on is how do we construct the meanings? And for that, I would like you to focus on these 5 pillars of reading. The National Reading Panel has identified, they sometimes call it the 5 facets, they call it the 5 pillars, okay, core pillars, or whatever you call it. But finally, the comprehension depends on the first 4. So there is phonemic awareness, there is phonics, there is fluency, there is vocabulary, and finally there is comprehension. Now, when I say the National Reading Panel has identified, it means what? So phonemic awareness, when you look at, it's the first phase or first stage of reading, when you try to identify and manipulate the sounds. So sometimes it creates problems for us to identify and manipulate the sounds, and that leads us with very poor vocabulary. Then when you say the phonics is again a method of teaching reading and writing, but primarily it has to do with the sounds in relation. So when on multiple sounds having, maybe the sound is the same, but the letters that are used for them are different. C, K for the same sound. Okay, so when you understand the first 2, you develop the fluency in reading. And remember, NET exam is time-bound exam. You know, it is competitive exam. So in order to pass, you have to be in the first 6%. And that's where you need fluency in reading. So when you are reading a text and trying to understand, if you have to read, reread, and again reread, then there are issues. Okay, completing, it builds pressure, and finally our mindset is affected, our understanding is affected. And again, that fluency comes with vocabulary, and that fluency is also supported by vocabulary. So for all of you who would like to have 10 on 10 in reading comprehension, I will just say try to focus more on vocabulary, more on reading practice. Now, how to practice and what are the different forms of reading, we'll have later. I'll talk about it there. But if you address these first 4, then your comprehension will be much better. And once you understand it, well, I believe without rereading or maybe third, fourth reading, you can attempt all the 5 questions. Okay, so as a skill, I'll put now reading not just as a process, not just as an art, I'll now put it as a skill. Maybe yesterday you would have studied communication skills. Okay, there are receptive, we call them comprehensional skills, and there are expression, so expressive skills. But reading as a skill enables to acquire and understand essential information and use it for decision making. Now, this is important. It's not a mundane art. It's not a mundane activity. It's a skill that helps you make appropriate decisions in both your personal and professional life. And since we are going to be the teachers, or maybe we are the teachers, our professional life tests, our professional examination like NET tests our reading skills. Yes, so I'm just now leading you towards one simple paragraph. It's from the NET 2015 exam question paper. I have not just put the paragraph, but all the 5 questions which are there and will help you identify what level or what reading pillar helps you where and how. Yes, so you can read, however, for everybody's benefit, I'll just have a reading of the paragraph and then we may just focus on the questions. I repeat, this is a paragraph from 2015 NET exam question paper. And friends, this is all about the reality that we are facing around us. Okay, so the paragraph reads like, I did that thing recently where you have to sign a big card. See, it's a kind of horror unto self, especially as the keeper of the big card was leaning over me at the time. Suddenly, I was on the spot, a rabbit in the headlights, torn between doing a fun message or some sort of in-joke or a drawing. Instead, overwhelmed by the myriad options available to me, I decided to just write good luck, best joy. Now here, if you see the first question is, when confronted with signing a big card, the author felt like a rabbit in the headlight. What does this phrase mean? Now, those who want to attempt this based on this first part of the paragraph, they may just speak or they may put in the chat. When confronted with signing a big card, the author felt like a rabbit in the headlight. What does this phrase mean? A state of confusion, a state of pleasure, a state of anxiety, or a state of pain?
Hello, sir.
Yes?
A state of confusion, maybe?
Yes. Good. So, now here what happens is, I would like you to go back to the 5 pillars. Okay, what do we have here? Vocabulary, the 4th pillar. Okay, and important part is the fluency as well, because we have to complete it in time. Now, the state of confusion, again, you just have to imagine. Okay, when a rabbit comes before your headlight at night, what happens? It's in a state of confusion where to go. And that is exactly what the confusion of the author is, what to do, what to write. Yes, you just have to sign a big card, but then the question is now, when you are writing it, you don't know what to do. And here, the problem of the author starts. Okay, then I would like you to focus on the next part of the paragraph. It was then that I realized to my horror that I had forgotten how to write. Now reveals what the paragraph wants to share. Yes? It was then that I realized to my horror that I had forgotten how to write. My entire existence is tap letters into computer. My shopping lists are hidden in the notes function of my phone. If I need to remember something, I send an email to myself. A pen is something I chew when I am struggling to think. Paper is something I pile beneath my laptop to make it more comfortable height for me to type on. A poll of 1,000 teens by the stationers Bic. Now this is again an example the author is giving, but there is some number. So in the beginning I said you should also be focusing on the reasoning, the logical reasoning and the mathematical reasoning as well. So I would just like you to focus here. A poll of a survey of 1,000 teens by the stationers Bic found that 1 in 10 don't own a pen. A third, so 1/3, have never written a letter. And half of 13 to 19 years old have never been forced to sit down and write a thank you letter. More than 80% have never written a love letter. 56% don't have letter paper at home. And a quarter have never known the unique torture of writing a birthday card. The most a teen ever has to use a pen is on an exam paper. You have net now again back as a paper pen. But see, almost 1/4 of it is dedicated to this. So while reading this survey, you must be clear about the importance of it in the paragraph and the numbers that are given there. See, some are in percentage, some are in number, and so mathematically, no, we just don't have to think that we are language teachers. We have to be good at mathematics as well. So, Vic, have you heard of mobile phones? Have you heard of email, Facebook, and Snapchatting? This is the future. Pens are dead, paper is dead, handwriting is a relic. Now, again, the issue here is the word relic. So, when I read it for the first time, I was confused there. What does the word relic mean? And that's where I just had to look at the dictionary. Okay, so that's the reason why I have been emphasizing more on enhancing or enriching your vocabulary. Relic, by the way, here is something that exists so far. We don't know whether it will exist any longer or not. So handwriting is a relic. Handwriting is one of the most creative outlets we have and should be given the same importance as other art forms such as sketching, painting, or photography. Yes? So now we have read it once with emphasis on everything that we have, and we'll now look at the questions. Question number 2. Now here, if you see their pattern, they don't go by paragraph to paragraph. Okay, maybe one question will be from an individual paragraph. The second question will be based on your inferencing or understanding of the entire passage that is given to you. So you cannot just look at the questions and go back. That is the technique that most of the students use, but will not help you. So here, what do we have? According to the author, which one is not the most creative outlet of pursuit? So
Hello, sir.
Yes,
May I answer?
please.
According to author, reading is not the most creative outlet of the pursuit,
Exactly.
because in the last paragraph there is no utterance of the reading. Apart from that, author has given emphasis on all the other three words that are there in the question.
Yes, true. So here, what helps you is the technique called inferencing. How well you infer from the paragraph. Now, this is not the comprehension that from different paragraphs we understand different things. Okay, this is what calls for an overall understanding that you develop. Okay, and if you go back to the levels of learning, again, that we talked, the creating, the cognitive level. So you have to create an understanding for yourself. You have to develop an understanding for yourself. Yes. So here, though the author is not directly talking about reading, but talks about reading. So what is heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. So sometimes there are a few things which are not explicit, but they are implicitly expressed in the paragraphs. So I would just like to focus on this implicitness of the questions. So at times when we read such questions, and if you have read the paragraph in a hurry to just address the questions that you can. And for the remaining questions, you go back to the paragraph. So this through to and fro through technique will not help you. Okay, don't move from the paragraph to the questions and questions to the paragraph. Yes, sometimes we have to do for clarification, but not for understanding. Okay, good. So we move on to the third question. Now, there are a few questions which are time consuming. The questions calls for both your psychomotor skills, means your routine activity that you carry out. You have to read fast and you have to understand as well. Okay, so the third question is the entire existence of the author revolves around computer, mobile phone, typewriter. Now, when I read this for the first time, I was just about to say computer. Then I said, no, mobile phones. Then I said, where is the typewriter? I was just trying to go back and go to the typewriter. But later on, when I read the options, I realized what the net examiners want to ask. So here, what we have to remember is go through the entire question first, then process it. Okay, so here the options are identify the correct answer from the codes given below. B only, A and B only, A, B and C, B and C only. What can be the correct answer?
Sir, I believe the second one is the correct answer. A and B only, both computer and mobile phones.
Okay. Why do you believe so?
Uh, Maybe because, sir, there is a mention of mobile phones and emails, Facebook and Snapchatting. So all these features are there in mobile phones as well as computer. But typewriter, I believe, is the old form of
Yeah,
uh, typing and all. That's why.
true. Good. So here, what I would just like to explain is this is about technology and not just the writing process and the outcomes, particularly the dangers of the technology use. Yes, and that's why there is no mention, direct mention of the typewriter in the entire paragraph. So now here, when I said fluency is required, so when you go through the paragraph very fast, in the first look, you have to be clear about what the author is talking about, let's say technology. So what tools are mentioned there? So alongside the reading, you just have to mentally, psychologically list down the tools that are mentioned. Okay, so here there is no mention of typewriter, true, and there is definitely the mention of computers and there is definitely the mention of the mobile phones. So option 2, A and B only is correct. And alongside, you just have to understand, okay, it is B only, not B, B only. So that gives us an indication that multiple options are also possible. A and B only is an indication that A, B, and C is also possible. Yes, so when options are given, you just have to understand the options in order to learn what they want to ask. Good. The fourth question that we have is, how many teens, as per the big survey, do not own a pen? Anybody? How many teens, as per the big survey, big is the stationers? Can you recollect what was there? 1 in 10. Now see, this is all about the fluency, the memory, the comprehension. 1 in 10. It was 1 in 10. And how many were surveyed? The survey, the poll was of 1,000. So 1 in 10. So for 1,000, it will be
Sir, 100.
100. Very good. So here, I would just like you to go back to what I said. What does the first paper consists of? It consists of logical reasoning. It consists of the mathematical reasoning as well. So here, I would want you not just to look at it as verbal reasoning. Yes, this comprehension is all comprehensive. Teaching, maybe there will be a paragraph on teaching, there will be a paragraph on research, there will be a paragraph on ICT. So if you don't know the ICT tools and techniques, the methodologies using ICT, if you don't know the research using ICT, if you don't know the research methods and types of research, maybe you will not be in a position to understand the paragraph. And that's where I repeat, reading is the only way out. Yes? Okay, good. Now the last question from that. It's all about understanding. So the last level of Bloom's taxonomy, the cognitive, creating the knowledge. What is the main concern of the author? Option 1 is that the teens use social networks for communication, that the teens use mobile phones, that the teens use computer, that the teens have forgotten the art of handwriting.
Sir, option 4.
Option 4. Okay. Why?
Because, sir, he is talking about how teens are using mobile phones and everything. But in the paragraph, it is also mentioned that they have forgotten how to write. And it is said in the last paragraph that it is handwriting is one of the most creative outlets. And
Okay.
we don't know that.
Good. Good. True. True. And there is one more way
Sir,
knowing that. Yes.
uh, maybe call that it is the moral of the paragraph.
Yes, exactly. When I said that there is another way of learning it, you go to the question. What is the main concern of the author? See, author is not here to tell us that the teens are using social networks for communication. The author does not want to tell us that teens use mobile phones. Yes, the objective is also not that they use computers. Otherwise, the author would have given that data. But it is not there. And concern is what you are worried about is your concern. Yes, and that is how, or that is why the fourth option, that the teens have forgotten the art of handwriting, is important. And more important is the last paragraph gives you that. And if you focus on every paragraph, talks about that. The first one, he writes something and he is worried. The second one, his worry is given. The third one, the survey on handwriting is given. Yes. So if you look at all, the pens are dead, the paper is dead. What is it? It's also about the handwriting. So ultimately, the author is focused more on handwriting, and the word relic. Relic becomes important here. Yes, that is exactly what we have to keep in mind. Good. So, what do we learn here from this single paragraph of NET exam 2015 question paper? Number 1 is, when you read the paragraph, read it not just to identify single information. or bits and pieces of information. Read it to understand. Because once you understand the paragraph, what the author wants to say, what the author is worried about, or what the author is praising or analyzing, whatever the describing, based on the type of writing it will be. Yes. So once you come to know that, almost all of the questions can be addressed. Second is, once you identify the area, like let's say here the technology is the area, that is the catch. Okay. But the author is talking about the dangers. So when you identify that catch, whatever is supported by the numbers, the figures, the percentage or whatever, will have its own importance. So as and when you read it, try and understand the numbers. Sometimes the numbers are given indirectly and asked in a direct way. So 1 in 10 and there is 1000. So we have to calculate. Yes. So sometimes there are such things. So as you read, the calculate, because the more you calculate, the more numbers you have, the better your understanding will be. Okay. So with this, I just wanted to focus on these 5 pillars of reading. Okay. Particularly the fluency and the vocabulary. Okay. And how it helps in decision. Every question when you attempt it, you decided something. Yes. So it's a small scale decision, but we have to take a lot of decisions. We have to read not just the text, we have to read the environment, we have to read the situations, we have to read everything around us. Yes. So reading is not just for text. It is not just reading of words. Okay. So phonemic awareness is the beginning of it. Then phonics is the next stage. And as you understand both and practice them, you develop the fluency. And fluency can be even better with the help and support of enriched vocabulary. And when all these 4, if you can see that circle, when all these 4 are in the right place, your comprehension will be different. It will be much better. Okay. So next we have, I have called it TLL. No, sorry, TTL. Types, techniques, and levels of reading. I have put all the 4 together because when you read different sources, different things come in different or under the different headings. Intensive and extensive readings are also known as the techniques. They are also known as the types. Skimming and scanning are normally given as the types, but they are the techniques of reading. In-depth reading is what I learned new. And the 4 levels, when you look at elementary reading, inspectional reading, analytical reading, and syntopical reading. Now that is the new word that I learned for this session. I would like you to focus on the 3rd and the 4th. Okay. However, we'll start with the intensive and extensive reading. Now, if you go back to your experience of reading the paragraph that we just did, okay, the intensive reading is the technique where you pay attention. It's deep reading. You go deep into the meanings. So if you look at 5 questions, all the 5 that we just attempted, okay, 3 were based on intensive reading. 3 questions were based on intensive reading. What is the main concern of the author? Okay, 5th one, then the entire existence of the author revolves around, okay, according to the author, which is not the most creative outlet, 2nd, and when confronted with something. So all this, they will help you. The intensive reading will help you attempt. The rest too have to do with the extensive reading, how vast your reading is. The more you read, the better or the faster you understand the things. So extensive reading has to do with the vast reading. We read maths, we read logic, we apply maths, we apply logic. Okay, we read words, we apply words. There is convergent thinking, there is divergent thinking. When all put together, you develop this intensive and extensive. So extensive, I would say, is a technique pre-NET examination. And intensive reading will help you while actually attempting the reading comprehension paragraph. Yes, so now your reading has to be vast while preparing for it and intensive as well. But when you actually appear, okay, intensive reading will help. Now, going to the techniques of reading, we have skimming, we have scanning, and we have in-depth reading. Now, we know in-depth reading, again, very much near to intensive reading. So when you read in-depth, try to understand what the author wants to say. You understand things. But sometimes there is a larger amount of numbers, figures, okay, percentage, the ratio, boys and girls, male, females, and in all, some numbers are given, and sometimes some numbers are there to create confusions in people. Only one is required, but 10 numbers are given. And there, particularly, scanning will help you. Scanning is again a technique of reading which will help us identify particular piece of information. So what happens is, in the given time period that you have for the NET exam, and particularly this 5 questions, when you attempt, you read the paragraph, you read the questions, you understand them and attempt them. Okay, the entire time period is very small, short. So what happens is sometimes we have to go back to the paragraph, but we have to read it fast to identify a piece of information. So here, I would just like you to again focus on the Bloom's taxonomy part. Here, we are mostly stuck while reading the paragraph. We are mostly stuck in the affective domain. We will either agree with some part or some element of the paragraph, or we may disagree. We like something, we don't like something, and we are stuck there. So instead, we just have to be objective. Don't focus on individuals, let's say the words, the phrases, the expressions, the data, the numbers, the logic, the arguments, not any individual one. Okay, go back and look at it. That will help you understand it much better. But scanning is mostly affected by the affective domain. If you go by your likes and dislikes, if you go by your attitudes and all, okay, then it will be difficult for you to, because you will be stuck in something else. So it becomes digression. And skimming is the technique that will give you an overall idea, maybe the general idea, the main ideas of the given paragraph. Okay, so now when you read, you just have to deliberately try to read fast and get the overall idea. You will have to ask questions, or maybe you just go back to the questions in the previous year exam papers and see where or how many questions are exactly. I'll say one question is based on particular information. So again, I would like you to go back to what I said, data, information. Yes, so something is based on data, something is based on information, and the rest, all the other 4 are based on knowledge and wisdom. So I'll repeat that when you are just scanning, okay, don't stop up scanning. You may revisit the paragraph and scan, but skimming, going through it, maybe your word is difficult, leave it. Maybe an expression is difficult. When I read it for the first time, I didn't know what is the rabbit before the headlight. or rabbit in the headlight. Okay, it took me a few minutes to understand that. But when I actually visualized that, I understood. Because the other two options, if you look at that question, the first question that we have, just a minute. Okay. So when confronted with signing a big card, the author felt like a rabbit in the headlight. What does this phrase mean? Now, if you have not come across that, you are confused in first, third, and fourth. A state of anxiety, yes, a state of pain. All the three are the probable options. Yes, and maybe if some of you have thought of the third and fourth, they are not wrong. But here, what can help you is your analytical reading. I would like you to go to the levels of reading. The analytical reading is something where you analyze. Okay, when a rabbit comes in the headlight, the first thing that happens is it gets confused. And if you look at this, it is the first paragraph. And the first impression, the first problem that the author faces. And that's why it cannot be the exact anxiety, it cannot be the pain, because they are the later versions of the confusion. Confusion, if sustains, leads to anxiety. If it sustains, it leads to pain. Yes? So here we just have to remember this. So when you analyze it a little, the actual situation, visualize, analyze, and put it, then you get the answer, even if you are confused in the options. Yes? So after that intensive reading, if there is a need, go for scanning. So first reading should be your skimming. Okay. Second reading should be intensive. Then if required, scan. Okay, you just need to be aware where the data is, where the number is, in which part of the paragraph or the passage, what numbers are, so that you can directly go back to that particular page. Yes. However, those who have not practiced reading comprehension, what happens normally with them is they have to depend on other questions. These 10 marks are at stake. And these 10 marks are something that you don't have to actually prepare for. You don't have to remember the things. Yes, it's given, interpret, and you get the marks. So here, elementary reading and inspectional reading will not help you much. Yes, elementary reading is just reading the words. We can call it rudimentary readings. You read, but you don't understand anything. So reading, I said, as a process is done. But reading is not done as an art. Reading is not done as a skill. We have to go for reading as an art and go for reading as a skill. And that's why going beyond the elementary, the rudimentary reading just the words, we have to go to the inspectional reading, one step more. And it's a quick or the main idea. There, what you try to understand is it's very similar to the skimming. You just want to understand what the thing is. Sometimes it happens that you attempt 4 questions, and for one question you are confused somewhere, and you have to go back to the paragraph. That's painful, particularly when you are appearing for the exam. But you have to go back and do that. But you can leave it for then, and then at a later stage when you have time, you can attempt that. And there, this inspectional reading will help. Yes, so when you have to find out a particular piece of information, quick reading when you do, okay, to understand the things, it is inspectional. Then analytical reading is more careful analysis, where you actually understand the text. You actually understand the meaning. You make meaning, you create meaning, you evaluate. Okay, so just reading comprehension is not just to understand. It's creating meanings from what the author has said. And the last one, maybe we may just, for the sake of new word, syntopical reading. Initially, I didn't know how to speak it, but when I understood what it is, I developed love for it. It's reading many books on the same subject. Sometimes it happens that we like a subject and we read so many authors on the same subject. Yes, so this is the reading I would like you to suggest. Okay, you read many paragraphs with 5 questions, all based on all the 4. Okay, data, information, knowledge, wisdom, where you need inferencing, meaning making, you evaluate, you create. When all the things are put together, okay, you will be in a position to understand your matter. So reading, I said read while preparation, read, reread. Read time bound. Now what will help you prepare for NET is read time bound, okay, attempt it time bound, and check your success ratio every day. Let's say, if not more, just one reading comprehension paragraph a day will help you prepare for it. It will help you practice it, okay, and it will also help you see whether we are progressing or we are struggling. If we are progressing, good, practice more, go on, fluency is improving. If you are struggling, identify the areas where you are struggling. Are you struggling with fact finding? Then go for scanning. Okay, if you are struggling with understanding the author, go for skimming. If you are struggling with the interpretations, go for intensive reading. And if you are really struggling with the interpretations, read philosophical texts. It will help you develop your mindset. Sometimes it happens that our background knowledge, okay, doesn't conform with what text is given to us. There is nothing wrong with that, but it creates problems. So when you read on every topic, I repeat, if you look at the previous year question papers, there are questions on technology, there are questions on higher education, there are paragraphs are all on everything. So while preparing the other components of the same paper, you can prepare for this reading comprehension, because that knowledge will help you here. But please do read the questions, do try and understand the questions, because our question here, how many teens as per the big survey do not own a pen? Now, if the question is how many of them own a pen, then you will have to work more on that. Yes, so sometimes what is given there in the paragraph is something that doesn't exist, but based on that you have to count what exists, and that is asked. So all the way, it's logic, it's mathematics, it's technology, it's everything that we have to focus on in reading comprehension. Okay, now for fun, I have used a few words. I found them while just looking at different types of reading. Somewhere they were presented as different types of reading. Somewhere they were presented as different forms of reading. Yes, but I'm using them to help you prepare for NET. Yes, now there is something called robotic reading. What is robotic reading? When we read and sound like a robot. Okay, we even don't know how it sounds to be. It's robotic reading. And particularly when you don't understand the paragraph, your reading is robotic. So sometimes you will find your students, you will find yourself struggling, you will find your friends, your colleagues, your peers struggling with that. So that is exactly what we call robotic. Then there is magnetic reading, which is again supplemented. Okay, you know the magnet attracts. Now, similarly, your thoughts, your ideas, when they match with what you are reading, okay, so don't just go by that. Don't just read what interests you. You may begin with what interests you, but later on you will have to read on everything. There may be a paragraph on politics, on governance. We need to know the structure. We need to know the governance. Otherwise, the interpretations will be difficult. The layered reading. Now, as the word suggests, we know what is layered reading, but it's normally quickly reading, maybe 5 times, so that you develop understanding. Because some of us will have a habit, will have a developed mindset that I cannot remember things in the first reading. And true, we have now developed that mindset, and it's okay. There is nothing wrong with that. But here, what can help you is layered reading. Yes? Now, synchronized reading. You know the word synchronized. Now, synchronized reading is reading in synchronization with different things. And this is exactly what NET wants you to do. You just don't have to look at the words. You need to know, understand the technology. You need to know, understand the technological tools, platforms, the developments around, its pros and cons, okay, the limitations. When you know everything and you are reading it, okay, in synchronization with the related elements or areas, it is synchronized reading. And what can help you the most if you are a person preparing for NET is the synchronized reading. Then there is eco reading. The students with problems in reading. Now we don't have the habits of reading. Yes, true. We don't like to read. Or maybe some of us have switched to the digital reading. Yes, but eco reading is repeating after a person. So when you find somebody who has lost interest in reading, ask them to repeat after you. Or maybe you may repeat after your friends. Eco reading will help you create interest in the reading. Because when your friend is speaking, you listen, then you speak. So when you actually speak, when you actually read, you are reading with some understanding of the thing. If it is simple, let's say skimming or scanning, you are reading it for the first time without any understanding of it. Okay, then there is something called bionic reading. What is bionic reading? Bionic reading is actually now post-technology technique that we have. It's making some parts of the words bold so that you emphasize there. So the same way, instead of putting it bold, you may start underlining some parts, some numbers, some important ideas, which will help you go back, revisit and understand. Expressive reading is something where you read and your voice goes up, down. So you keep yourself alive while reading it. So if you are preparing for NET at night, reading comprehension, going through it, and it's very boring, then read expressively. Autonomous reading, I wanted it to be the last, but I have put it immediately after the expressive reading because I want you all to be autonomous readers. Autonomous readers means a reader who can read text without the helps of the different sounds, helps of the different dictionaries, okay, the meanings or the explanations of the friends. When you understand the text on your own through your reading, you become, so your aim should be to become an autonomous reader. So the first step in that direction will be being expressive, then being synchronized, and then gradually you become autonomous. And once you are an autonomous reader, you can attempt all the 5 correct and all 10 marks will be yours. Unison is reading together, as the word unity or united means. Okay, so sometimes we cannot read when we are alone, we get bored. So you may have a few people, like-minded people, preparing for the net, preparing for reading comprehensions, and then you can go on. Everybody works on the same paragraph, everybody attempts the same questions, and then you go on. Okay, if you cannot have a group, you can go for parallel reading when you work in pairs. Okay, 2 persons working, but there in parallel reading, it is required that one is slightly better than the other, so that the other feels the peer pressure, works more in competition, and then you perform beyond your capacities. So there is parallel reading. Repetitive reading, we know. Then there is sprint reading. This is more important. Sprint reading. Sprint reading, I would say, it is a step or a milestone you have to achieve before being a synchronized or an autonomous reader. It is reading many pages a day, as much as you can understand. Normally, when we prepare, we target. Okay, I will read this much. No, if you can read more, read more. This will help you be comprehensive, be synchronized, be autonomous. And any paragraph that comes, maybe sometimes you will have the paragraph you already know. Yeah, a bold reader. Bold reading is something where some letters, some words are given in bolds, as we want to highlight. Yes, so initially, when you face problems, if you are using computers or digital technology, you can highlight. Or you are working on paper and pen, you can underline or work somewhere. This procedure is reading with expressions. Again, like expressive readings, but when you read with expressions, you make reading more interesting. So those who easily get bored or those who are into robotic reading, they have to implement this procedure reading. Passive reading is without referring back. Means you read and it is over. You don't refer back what I read, what I understood, or what. Normally, we are all, or 80% of the readers are into passive reading. And the problems with them is, after reading, they don't know whether they have improved or they have not improved. Yes, so don't enter into passive reading. Try and identify whether you are a passive reader, you are a robotic reader, you are a bionic reader, what, where you are. That early identification will help you improve. Yes, solo is again the individuals. Sometimes there are people who cannot work unison, they cannot work in pairs. So assisted reading is something very important. When you use an audio, sometimes, yes, reading is a tedious job. We can understand. So when you are trying to understand, your boredom kills your understanding. So there, the audio on the same can help you. Now you have a lot of software which will convert your text into the audio or your audio into the text. So you can use them and convert it and then read and listen. So that is assisted reading. I would just call it one form of reading or one technique of developing the reading habits or reaching to the sprint reading or let's say the synchronized reading or autonomous reading. Yes, then there is reception. Reception reading is you focus on meaning. Now this will help you in inferencing. Okay, so every after the reading, you discuss with your friends in unison or parallel what you understood from the paragraph. And this popcorn reading helps a lot. Yes, particularly those who have problems in retaining their interest in reading, because the paragraphs that is given to you, or a group of paragraphs that are given to you in NET paper 1, they are not smaller ones. Okay, I have seen the paragraphs. Sometimes they are a piece of paragraph, and say sometimes they are double the paragraph with more than 500, 600 words. Okay, so in that cases, this popcorn reading can help. When you are preparing the longer paragraphs and developing the habit of intensive reading or autonomous reading or synchronized reading, this popcorn reading can help you. Popcorn is reading into small parts. So there are, let's say, 10 paragraphs. So I will read the first paragraph, and maybe Shane will read the second paragraph. Bharti madam will read the third paragraph. Lavina will read the fourth paragraph. And that is how everybody reads, everybody listens, everybody is conscious, everybody is paying attention, and everybody relaxes, everybody stretches. So you learn. Yes. So in the initial stage of developing reading habits, this popcorn reading can help you. Then automatic reading is the later stage of reading, where you don't have to focus on every word, you don't have to focus on every number that is given. Automatically, you understand what is there. Even if the numbers are given and the question is asked in percentage, you can directly attempt. You don't have to go back and revisit. That is called automatic reading, but that comes with reading. Yes, so popcorn, assisted, prosody, then expressive, then synchronized, then autonomous. You can gradually go. Paired, we have already discussed. And then there is running reading. A little funny, but running reading helps understand the reading behavior of a person. So if you want to understand your own reading behavior, I would suggest that you go for this running reading. Read fast. As we run, okay, you read. And the faster you read, the earlier you would come to know you are getting bored. The earlier you would come to know you are facing problems with vocabulary. The earlier you would come to know that you are facing problems in inferencing, meaning making. Yes, so at what level and what element or layer of reading you need to address will be very easy. But sometimes running reading becomes more fun than a form of reading. Yes, so all this maybe new words, new forms of reading for us, all of us. Okay, but they will help a lot to prepare for the NET. When you are consciously applying them, okay, identify which one will work for you, identify which one you need, identify what are your limitations, and then you can improve your reading. And the more improved your reading is, the more comprehensive your comprehension will be. Yes, so meaning making becomes much, much, much easier. And with that background, I would just like you to focus on comprehension, because we read to comprehend. Yes, so I will just put comprehension as a process. I will also put comprehension as an ability or as an art. I will also put comprehension as a skill. You decide what do you want it to be for you. You want to simply improve it as a process, or you want to improve it as an ability or an art, or you want your comprehension as a skill to be improved. If you want it to be improved just as a process, then remember it's a cognitive process. Cognitive process means comprehension comes with meaning making. It comes with creating the understanding. Yes, so you have to create an image. You may visualize, okay, you may listen to and understand. It may be sensory, it may be anything. When you develop it as an ability or an art to understand something, because fundamentally the word to comprehend is to understand what is said or what is read. Okay, so you just try and understand people, you just try and understand their perspectives, you just try and understand their facts, figures, numbers, their societies, their culture, and it is over. And when you look at comprehension as a skill, you focus on your background knowledge. I mean, your reading, how far you have traveled, how far you have met the people, understood their societies, their cultures, their practices, and everything. Okay, what to what an extent you are aware of the technological or other developments in the society. Okay, how well you infer the meanings, the developments, where the society is moving from there, and whether you can actually synthesize this background knowledge and the recent developments in order to understand something or not. Yes, so my advice to all of you is don't just read, okay? Don't just read to understand, read to improve yourself. Okay, and that's why I would say word recognition, the phonic and the phonemic, the first two, into language comprehension. Your fluency, your vocabulary, okay, is equal to reading comprehension. If you talk about the types of comprehensions, you have literal comprehension, you have interpretive comprehension, you have critical comprehension, and you have creative comprehension. And friends, if you look back to the paragraph we have just attempted, you will find that there are questions on all the four. Literal means there is basic meaning, so there are questions on that. Okay, there is interpretive, so based on your interpretations, somebody caught it well. Okay, but there is no mention of typewriter. Yes, there is critical. So where you talk about the technology and all, okay, you are talking about handwriting. That particular question was critical. And there are creative, meaning making. What do you understand from the paragraph? Sometimes it is whether you agree with the author or not. Okay, so different ways your comprehension is tested, but in any question, your comprehension has to be literal, it has to be interpretive, it has to be critical, and it has to be creative. Again, going back to the same cognitive levels. So everything, comprehension revolves around the cognition. Done? So I have just one more paragraph. We can have a quick look. After understanding this reading, okay, we just have to see how fast we can read, how fast we can apply. This is a simpler paragraph to understand. It's about leadership studies. Okay, with the developments, it changes. Leadership lore is defined as an influence relationship among leaders and followers who want real change and outcomes that reflect their shared purpose. Now, leadership lore is a different word we normally don't use. Yes, so leadership involves influence. It occurs among people, those people who intentionally desire significant changes, and the changes reflect purpose shared by the leaders and their followers. Influence means that the relationship among the people is not passive. However, also part of this identification is that influence is multidirectional. It does not use orders or threats to make somebody do something. The basic cultural values in America make it easiest to think of leadership as something a leader does to a follower. Now, here the cross-cultural indications are there. So if you don't know the American practices, it will be difficult for you to understand. However, leadership has an effect in both directions, to and fro. In most organizations, superiors influence subordinates, but subordinates also influence superiors. The people involved in the relationship want real and important changes. Leadership involves creating change, not maintaining what normally happens. In addition, the changes sought are not dictated by leaders, but reflect purposes that leaders and followers share. Moreover, change is toward an outcome that the leaders and follower both want, a desired future or shared purpose that motivates them toward this more preferable outcome. An important aspect of leadership is influencing others to come together around a common vision. Thus, leadership involves the influence of people to bring about the change. It is to bring about the change toward a desirable future. So now here, this leadership has to do with the management. So as the English teachers, we may sometimes find that it's difficult, but not. And that's where we just don't have to be intensive readers. We have to read synchronized and we have to read expressively. We have to read all around. Yes. Now, this is a passage from NET 2021 exam question paper. I would like you to focus on the questions. Moving fast. What should be the outcome of leadership actions? Movement towards common vision of the leader and the followers. Movement towards the vision of the leader. Movement towards the vision of the majority. And strengthening of the authority of leaders. So, do we have the audience? You can also put in the chats, no problems. Anybody who would like to share? A, maybe, okay, good. Any other options? It is a, okay, can you see my screen? Okay, is it the same paragraph that we were discussing or it has changed?
It is changed, sir.
Okay, good. So I will now just share the responses with you. Yes, now here, what is it? What should be the outcome of leadership actions? So here the correct option is C. Movement towards the vision of the majority. See, we look at leadership as the leader centric. Yes, but it is always about the group. Leadership studies are an emerging discipline. What does that mean? Now it means it's a valid field. It means established field. It means an elaborate field. Here, now what is important is the word emerging. Emerging is evolving. So again, this is a very basic question based on vocabulary, your understanding. Yes. Then comes the concept of leadership discussed in these passages. So now here, if you look, it talks about everybody. It talks about to and fro. Yes. So we find it horizontally. Now here, the problem that you may face being the MA English people will be understanding leadership. So you should know the hierarchies. You should know what leadership is. You should know the leadership techniques. You should know the leadership strategies. You should know the leadership types. Then it will help you the most. Then what is the main theme of this passage? So it is the explanation of leadership construct. How leadership is built. It explains that. Okay. There is no model given. There are no arguments in the paragraph. There are no pros and cons. What if there is a good leader? What if there is a bad leader? So it's based on understanding inference. Okay. And what variables are used for defining leadership? So the power to affect relationship and desire for change. So that you can always catch. So fifth one is the easiest one. In case of the rest, it is very difficult for us to understand. Yes. So these 5 questions, through these 5 questions, I just wanted you to understand and emphasize the divergent reading. Okay. It's not, NET is not all about English. Okay. The medium is English, but the field may be any. It may be a question of ICT, it may be a question of politics, it may be a question of higher education related to anything. Just if you look back 2023, there was a question on NEP. Okay, we are now focused more on NEP, but in 2 years back, there were questions on that. So my advice to all of you will be, how do you develop your reading comprehension? So remember these 6 things. First, you need fluency in reading and comprehension. So fluency in both. You will develop fluency in reading, but you also need to develop fluency in comprehension. It can be developed through decoding the reading and decoding the comprehension. Every time, whatever you understand, discuss with people, whether you have understood the right thing or not. What is their decoding? What is their meaning? Compare. Then develop working memory. Then you can develop that working memory through paying attention to different fields. And there, I will just say, don't go by your likes, dislikes, and attitudes. All fields are our fields. Okay. Then you should have a perfect vocabulary. So registers. For every field, you should have basic vocabulary. Maybe 500 words of every field. Technology, literature, language, management, everything. Okay. Then you should read and learn to conclude. And as you conclude, you should construct sentences. As you conclude, you should develop new vocabulary. When I say new vocabulary, means whatever is there in the paragraph will not be there in the questions. Similar meaning words will be used. And that's where you should develop the new vocabulary, which will help. Now, just want you to focus on this. This is my focus. I have been talking about the higher cognitive skills, and they are also required in social and emotional setup that we have in an organization, because everything is interpersonal. Yes. So if you look at this, this is a projection of 2030 that the hours we'll be spending on the skills. Okay, 2016 hours are given. Okay, and 2030 hours are also given. So there will be a rise in the social and emotional skills by 24% and cognitive skills 8. So 32% our skills, interpersonal skills will change. So unless and until you understand a person, and his or her emotions, you cannot understand their perspectives. And if you cannot understand their perspectives, you cannot understand whatever they have written. Yes? So it's all about developing multiple competencies and developing multiple perspectives. And how to develop multiple perspective? It's while reading, be open-minded. And in order to be or help you be open-minded, I have just put a story to end. You can just read it. There is a legend, means a story, about a wise man who was sitting outside his village. A traveler came up and asked him, "What kind of people live in this village? Because I am looking to move from my present one." So, what is the question? What kind of people live here? The wise man asked. So, instead of responding, the wise man asked, "What kind of people live where you want to move from?" The man said, "They are mean, they are cruel, they are rude." The wise man replied, "The same kind of people live in this village too." After some time, another traveler came by and asked the same question. The wise man asked him the same question. And the traveler replied, "The people are very kind, courteous, polite, and good." And the wise man said, "You will find the same kind of people here too." Yes? So this is all about understanding the society, understanding the culture, reading between the lines, developing the comprehension, and give people and their ideas or thoughts and opportunity, and give yourselves the opportunities. Maybe people will have all the five correct after some practicing some 10 paragraphs. And maybe you will have to practice some 20 or 30. That's not an issue. But know your speed, know your understanding, know what works for you. What means what kind of reading works for you, what techniques of reading works for you, and then accordingly change. All right, finally, the last advice before I say thank you. You know the picture? We know what happened. We know Dharma, we know other, we know everything. Yes? And it's all about interpretations. Okay, good. Thank you. That's all from me. Now, these last 10 minutes, I would like to put for question answers if there are any. I would also like to know what you have learned, or what you agree with me, what you don't agree with me. If you have any suggestions for me, if you have any takeaways, anything that you want to share, maybe in chat box, or maybe you can unmute yourself and speak. Okay, Kushi, you are talking about the poetry reading. But in net paper one, I have two answers for you. One is net paper one, we have paragraph and read, because it's all about comprehension. Whereas poetry, I would say, is all about interpretations. Poetry is always open to multiple interpretations, and poetry is also bound by the experiences the person has passed through. Plus, it has the charm, the language that is used. Yes? So, in order to interpret or understand a poem, you need to be language rich, you need to be culture rich, you need to be society rich, you need to be people rich. Yes? If you develop all this, then you develop better understanding of the poems. Anybody else? Or anything you would like to share? You liked the most, you didn't like the most, whatever. It's open. Open to feedback.
Sir, I would like to share my takeaways with you.
Yes.
Uh, Actually, like always, I'm familiar with your teaching style. Like always, you started from the very basic, and then you took to the intensive reading comprehension. So I like that you start from the basic, from the basic differences between skill versus competence, data and information, and then you took to the five pillars and all. So that the flow of your explanation was really nice, and I also understood various basic concepts and then the intensive ones. So thank you for that.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, yesterday I was just worried about that because we talk. No, whenever you are presenting something, you need to know the audience. Audience analysis is crucial. But here I didn't know the audience. I didn't know the who will be watching it on YouTube. And that's why I thought, okay, let me start with 0 and then move to 100. Yes, in paper 2, true, Kushi. There is poetry reading comprehension. The techniques can be the same, but in poetry, again, see, the passage is different, poetry is different. And when you talk about the poems, there are multiple things. I said no, prosody. Okay, there is rhyme, rhythm. There are so many things that we have to keep in mind. Okay, I don't know how many more days you have, but in case if time permits, or maybe at a later stage, we may also have a session on this poetry appreciation. But I will not call it poetry reading. I will call it poetry appreciation because we don't read and understand a poem. We always appreciate a poem because everybody has unique experiences that they share. True, Kushi. But then my focus here was just paper 1. No? That's why I have not got the examples from poetry. Okay, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Shrusti, please.
Thank you so much for this session. Actually, I didn't knew about the Bloom's cognitive levels of the readings and stuff that I like the most. Thank you for explaining that. It it helped me a lot in the reading comprehension as well. So thank you so much, and that's why I could just answer the comprehension and the questions. Thank you so much for on the behalf of the department.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words. Good. Anybody else? Okay, then
Yes,
we
sir.
have it. Yes, Pratham.
It seems that, yes, sir, there are no queries now. So
Pratham
thank
is
you
always
so
the
much,
first
sir.
to start. Pratham is always first to start. But then, is he the right
Yes,
person to ask?
uh, yes, sir. Now I am here.
Very good.
So thank you so
Just
much, sir, on behalf of the department for your lecture and your valuable time, right? As well as for sharing your knowledge with us. It was very detailed session on reading comprehension. Thank you so much, sir. Now
thank
we
you
would
very
like
much.
to end this session here. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot. Okay, I'm leaving now.
Bhaskar bhai?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
madam. I don't know whether I have met your expectations, but I tried.
No, sir. No, even I did not tell you anything. The feedback itself speaks volume that students are very happy and they have enjoyed as well as learnt also. So personally, because I am here, though it was not possible for me to be there throughout the session, but in between, I listened to you. I saw the way you started explain from reading, then comprehension, then levels of taxonomy, psychomotor, cognitive, affective domain, everything. So I'm sure your tips and strategies would help them.
Thank you.
And personally also, thank you very much. And students, I hope, I think it was introduced, I mean, during this by Pratham also that Bhaskar sir is the proud alumnus of our department. And
And
if
I
you plan to join Charu set,
understand.
he would be there interviewing you.
The doors are always open for all, particularly those who want to work hard. Yes, this is the best place to learn. And madam, I thank you, the department, and the students, because in particular, I feel proud. This was the first good opportunity for me to pay back to the department.
No, sir, we would give you more such opportunities very often. And we
Thank-
really wish that I know very busy schedule you always have because you hold so many important positions over there. The latest addition is that you have become member of board of management also.
Sure.
And in this science and technology university, a person from humanities and social science achieving this cadre is really a matter of great pride for the department also. So thank you very much
Thank you.
and hope to see you soon again, sir.
Sure. Sure. I take your leave. Thank you all. Thank you, students. Thank you, madam.
Just one small announcement for all the participants before you leave. As you know, tomorrow is the last day of this 15-day long training program. And tomorrow we would be having your online exam also. At present, tentatively, we are going to have 100 questions, 50 questions. 50 questions, 25 from paper 1 and 25 from paper 2. And if you wish, you can take the test and can receive the certificate as well. So wish you all the very best. We hope that whatever efforts we have been doing from our side, they would help you in achieving your goal. Okay, on that note, thank you very much. See you soon for the post lunch session for paper 2. And today we have very two important sessions, especially for the students of the department, because we have both the sessions on ELT, English language teaching. So try to remain present and attend. Thank you.